Governor, I know that you have very specific insight into Walz and the state. You have said that Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz, is, quote, Bernie Sanders in hunting gear. Tell me what you mean by that.
Yes, well, he shares many of the same philosophies and political views as Bernie Sanders. He self-proclaims as the most progressive governor in the country. The Democrat Socialist Alliance, Bernie Sanders is a Democrat socialist, said that Tim Walz has passed more initiatives than any of on their checklist than any other governor in the country. And Bernie Sanders endorsed Tim Walz for VP relative to his other contenders. And so if you look at his record as governor, and particularly what he champions, I think that's a fair summary.
When you call him a Democrat socialist, tell me specifically why.
Well, for example, if you go down the list of the DSA, the Democrat Socialist Alliance items, it includes things like giving illegal immigrants driver's license, giving in-state tuition to illegal immigrants, giving free health care, subsidized health care to illegal immigrants, increasing state spending by nearly 40%, the largest increase of government growth and spending in the history of the state of Minnesota in the most recent budget cycle, and the list goes on, but those are some examples.
I know if we look at even some of his most progressive policies, just one of them that makes a lot of headlines, providing free school meals. Is there anything in particular wrong with that?
I don't think most Minnesotans or most Americans would object to that particular initiative. I think it's some of the things I mentioned a minute ago that would get more people's attention. You know, that 40% increase in spending is, like I said, probably one of the largest increments of growth in government in the history of the country.
Switching gears, I would love your perspective on what we just heard from Senator Lindsey Graham today, that Trump the provocateur, Trump the showman, may not win this election. Do you agree? And does Trump need, in your opinion, to tone down these personal attacks, the name calling, and focus on policy?
I think Senator Graham made a great point. You know, the people who get jazzed up about the name calling or the showmanship or the provocateur Trump, those people are already with Trump. So what's at stake now if Trump wants to win from the basically being a little behind or tied right now in the swing state with persuadable voters is policy. And he can get those voters back because he has a strong position relative to how those voters think on illegal immigration, on crime, on inflation, and on what they consider to be wokeness run amok. So if he would focus on those things and be a more disciplined candidate, he could still win this race. But if he's going to bounce off the walls and get mad at the governor of Georgia over something that happened in the past or, you know, do just name calling, that's not going to attract those swing voters in swing states.
It is one thing to say Trump should do something. Is there anyone who can successfully encourage him to focus on what Americans care about and to get out of his own way with personal grievances, focus on the issues?
Well, there doesn't appear to be, because they write him scripts. You think about, for example, after the convention, he was supposed to give sort of a unity speech, and he went off the teleprompter and got into all the grievances again, and it sort of spoiled the idea of that post-assassination attempt unity moment. There may be some people around. There was an op-ed today about bringing Kellyanne Conway back because she was somebody in prior election cycles who could actually harness him a little bit and focus him a little bit. And if it's not her, I don't know who it would be in his world. But somebody needs to do it. He can't just keep bouncing off the walls and expect to win this election.
Yeah, if you could speak directly to Trump, what would you tell him?
The target audience is persuadable voters in swing states. It's 6 or 8 states. It's 3 or 5% of the voters. And what they care about right now are the vote-driving issues: illegal immigration, inflation, crime, wokeness run amok. Focus on those things, and you may well win this election.
Very last question. Last year, you were quoted as saying that with Trump, Republicans are setting themselves up to lose. That was before President Biden stepped down. In this moment, do you feel that Republicans are still poised to lose this election?
Well, the polls would indicate not necessarily. You know, I do believe President Trump wasn't our strongest candidate. I think somebody like Nikki Haley would have been a stronger candidate, particularly against Vice President Harris. But, you know, that ship has sailed. And I do think President Trump is a little behind in the swing states, but barely. And if he could tighten it up a little bit and focus a little bit, he could win. But this election could clearly go either way at this point.
Former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty, appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.